Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 8 of Back Pocket Dream. Today, my guest is the South Shore's very own and well-known, highly respected medium, Sandy Alemian. For the last 26 years, Sandy has been a bridge between heaven and earth as a spirit medium and channel. She also coaches people to gracefully navigate through endings which give birth to new beginnings. I like that. As an intuitive artist, she creates from her heart and does spirit art and manifestation paintings for clients. Sandy is also an international author of 2 books, Congratulations, It's an Angel, and What Was God Thinking? Hello, Sandy.
Hello, Rick. How are you?
That was easy, wasn't it? Was that easy or what? We've only been doing this for like an hour and a half trying to connect here. Hopefully it's recording.
Oh, my God.
I got it on audio anyway, on tape recorder. It was so much easier on the laptop. I don't know what happened, but anyway.
I don't know what happened, but here we are.
Geez, I don't know. Well, it's good to see you.
It's good to see you, too.
It's so good to see anybody, isn't it? No offense.
Tired of looking at myself.
Gosh, my goodness. They need a hug. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Well, I got to ask you, I'm going to start off with this one, Sandy. Do you know what happened 2,061 days ago?
2,061 days ago.
Yeah.
Rick, I don't even know what happened yesterday or the day before that.
Oh,
seriously.
I'm so hurt. I am
Wait,
so
hold
hurt.
Hold on a second.
2,061 days ago.
That's 6.5 years ago. Is that when you and I met through Tammy?
Oh, there you go. It was, yeah, I would have thought you had
in
an
my
extra
office.
stone. Yeah. I know because it was my birthday. May 27th, 2015.
Wow.
Tammy brought me to see you. I'd never seen a medium before, ever. And she knew
what a gift.
And she gave me to see you. And so it's one of my most memorable gifts ever. And you came
I didn't have to jump out of a cake. I didn't have to wear any red ribbons. Nothing.
No,
it was awesome.
No. I would have appreciated a piece of cake, but that's all right.
Oh, well, sorry. If I had known you were coming, I'd have baked you a cake.
So,
being a medium doesn't mean you have to be so serious all the time. I've taken myself way too seriously for far too long.
Oh, please. Well, I got plenty of things I want to talk to you about. So whatever we have time for. But I'm wondering if you want to do this, if I know you sent out a recent newsletter. You got many, many followers all over the globe, but you sent out one recently saying that this past year has been, like for a lot of us, interesting to say the least, and you had a low profile. So I don't know if you want to start off discussing that or get more into the medium type of thing, or just to explain. I have a lot of people who know you are kind of curious maybe why you've had a low profile.
Oh, it was a tough year on so many different levels. When I feel like I'm going through my own stuff, and I tend to go inward, and that's when I have to do my inner work, because it's only, the saying, you can't give from an empty cup. I went through so many things in this past year, in 2020, that emptied my cup and drained me, and I felt like I didn't have enough to give. And so whether it was stuff that one of my kids was going through, or my mom being diagnosed with stage 4 cancer and her death, surgery, Kenny's kid's mom passed in September. It felt like it was one thing after another. And typically the way that I am in my life and in my business, I go through something and I share it. And I couldn't, because I felt like I kept getting hit, Rick, with another, like, oh, are you kidding me? And it was a tough year. I call it a year of being really broken down and broken open, like really being broken open. Scary. Parts of it were really scary. I felt like many people, like I didn't have a lot of control over what was happening to the people that I love. And so the feelings of helplessness were there. It was, and for a recovering fixaholic, it's not easy to feel helpless, where I couldn't fix I couldn't fix anyone that was hurting. So I, here's what I found though. I found that as it has in the past, when I get broken open, something beautiful usually comes out of it. First time was, when Talia had passed, my daughter that passed 26 years ago. That was my first really huge breaking open moment. And what came out of it was this whole connection to the realm of spirit and writing a book. And then, being broken open a bunch of times throughout my life, it's incredible to see what can be birthed from that. But going through, when I'm in it, I can't see what's going to be birthed yet. And that's the hard part. Like really being in the oh, I'm getting goosebumps, being in the pain and the darkness of the unknown. You can't see the good that's coming out. All you can see is darkness. And when I go to those places, Rick, it's like all I can feel is my fear. I feel anxiety, I feel worry, and it's like I'm swimming in the muck. And when I'm swimming in the muck, I don't have anything inspirational to share. And that's what a lot of this year was. However, the creativity that came out of it, Kenny and I started doing these Facebook Live shows on Friday nights where he would play the piano and we would both sing, and like that was a big huge birth that kind of just happened. So that was like what I found was the creativity for me is what kept bringing me out of the muck. So singing, I wrote a couple of songs on the piano. I got back into a painting practice, my writing with God and spirit. Like those were the moments for me that kind of helped me to see the light again. And it was wild because it was a journey of, okay, phew, I can breathe. And it was like, oh shit, something else. So sorry, I just swore. Can I swear?
That's right. It's on YouTube. I think, yeah, I don't think I'll lose my account over shit. I don't think so,
But it was a year of like feeling like really being in the muck and then coming out of the muck and then being in the muck and then coming out of it. And so there was a lot of praying, there was a lot of writing, a lot of painting, a lot of music. And what I'm also realizing, like I feel good now. I had to start really taking care of, I don't know why this is emotional for me. I'm a caretaker. I'm used to taking care of other people. I'm used to helping other people and serving other people and helping other people feel better. I had to really dig in and find out what I needed to take care of me, to take care of myself emotionally, because no one could fix me. No one, there was nothing wrong. It was just in a tough place. And I didn't want anyone to fix me. I didn't, like friends had said, Sandy, why don't just reach out? I'm like, in those places, I didn't want to. I just needed to be with it, So here's what the image that came to me, and it's going to become my new logo, the lotus flower, right? The lotus has to bloom in the mud. It grows from the mud. And it's the only flower that will, I think it's like 5 or 8 inches that it grows out of the water. And it's beautiful, it's stunning. And it can only open one petal at a time. And I felt like that's what started happening towards the end of this year. It was after my mom passed. That was like the final breaking open part. And then, I don't know, like things are falling into place. I'm getting more clarity. I'm working out again, which is a big deal. That was another way of taking care of myself. And it's interesting, being a medium and going through such a profound loss. I go through it just like any other human being.
Right.
People said to me, I remember the day she was dying. She was her last week. We knew she was on hospice and she was declining every day. In the last 4 days of her life, she was non-responsive, and I would just go and lay in bed with her and sob and sob and sob and sob and sob. And someone said to me, "But Sandy, you're a medium. Like, I don't understand. How is this really so hard for you? You're a medium." I'm like, yeah. And it's my mom. Like it still hurt.
Well, she was also one of your best friends, right? Basically,
She was
right?
one of my best, yeah, she was one of my best friends. And the cool thing that I experienced through it, Rick. So it's my belief that we are physical beings and we are energetic beings, right? We are energy. We're all energy. So I knew even in the last 4 days, even when my mom couldn't respond back to us and she was, pretty much sleeping the whole time, I knew her spirit was vibrant. And I knew that I could connect with her spirit. And so I did. I connected with her spirit even before she passed. And that was like one of the things that brought me alive again. So I honestly don't know how people go through loss without a spirit connection or without a spiritual connection. To me,
So you were hearing from her while she was still here?
I did
Hearing
it
from her
through
soul?
my writing. Yeah, I got messages
Uh,
through my writing. Yeah.
okay.
You want me to read one?
Sure. I love you
It
to.
was, yeah, it was really cool. So she passed on October 19th, which was one of my sister's birthday. Oh, happy birthday, Susie. But my mom and dad's 70th anniversary would have been on October 15th, right? So she was laying in the bed and I didn't know what to do with myself. Like my sister, I have 4 older sisters and we were all taking turns and we were there sleeping overnight. And so I was in an emotional place. So I pulled up a chair beside the bed and I took out my journal because this is what I've done for many, many years. Rick, I turn to my journal and I turn to God or I turn to spirit.
Yeah.
So here's what I wrote. This is October 15th. Happy
Okay.
70th anniversary, Mommy and Daddy. Okay, I'm 59 years old and I still call my mother Mommy. And my dad's been in spirit
That's
for
okay.
13 years now. So here's what I wrote. Oh, Mama, I'm watching you transition, and as much as I want you to go be free, I'm so sad. I don't sense your soul is in your body right now. Can you hear me? Or can you give me a message from your soul? And then this is the response that came through. And it was like this energetic, it was so different than my energy. My energy was sad when I started writing. So I said, can you hear me? Can you give me a message from your soul? And this is what came through. Dolly, I'm just fine. I already feel what you girls were telling me. What she meant by that was we were telling her how peaceful she was going to feel and how beautiful it was going to be. So I already feel what you girls were telling me. I'm also watching my body decline. Isn't it thrilling?
That's good.
I love you all so much. I haven't seen Daddy yet. I have such goosebumps. I haven't seen Daddy yet, but I feel his energy near me. Don't cry for me. I'm so good. I'm already peaceful. It won't be long, they're telling me. Take care of yourselves and each other. We're going to have a ribbon cutting ceremony soon. Have a drink for me tonight. I love you all. Love, Mom. And I thought, and as soon as I wrote that, it was like I was filled with peace. And I was like, ribbon cutting ceremony. And then it came to me. You know, they say that we're tethered to our soul by a silver cord.
Oh,
That's what she was referring to, like releasing goosebumps, like releasing herself completely from the physical body.
oh,
Yeah.
oh.
So that was
So
cool.
so you felt in your whole body and being the love too while you were writing too, right? You felt that energy, right?
Yeah, it
To
was
whatever.
interesting because it was two things happening at the same time, right? So here I am, my physical eyes are watching this amazing human being, watching her physical body decline, watching her breathing erratic, right? She's not waking up. So I'm watching that, I'm witnessing that, but I'm hearing something else at the same time, which is, it's almost like her soul was already at a higher frequency, right? Our souls usually are always at a higher frequency because they're not bogged down by ego. So it was interesting watching this physical thing, but also hearing from this higher frequency soul energy that she was now merging with or becoming more aware of.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
No, thanks for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about your mother at some point, but I'm glad we got to do it because she was I never met her personally, but I loved her videos on.
Oh, she was
She was just such a
amazing.
sweet. She seemed like such a sweet, innocent woman. There's a cuteness to her, like childlike, that you just felt
It
from the
was a,
get-go, wasn't it?
in I was just taking a walk this morning and just, saying some prayers and stuff. And the one thing that appreciated about my mom more than anything was how grateful she was
Uh,
for everything. She had a heart filled with gratitude, and she never expected anything from anybody. And
uh,
as I was walking, I'm like, how did she not have expectations on us kids? How did she
uh,
not expect appreciation back? And what came to me was because she was already filled with appreciation. She was the source of appreciation, so she didn't need to have it back. Like, does that make sense?
you, was that something she always kind of had, or you saw it develop as you got older, the gratitude? I know
I
it seems
I
like,
definitely saw it as she got older, and her house is selling. It's closing on Tuesday, so my sisters and I have been going through the house and going through her stuff, and what a process that was. But finding her little notebooks that she would write in, or little pieces of paper, it was so many of them. Rick, were I love my kids so much. I'm so grateful for my family and my kids and my grandchildren. Like how many times she would write that because she was like full and overflowing with love.
uh,
And I think that's why she didn't need or expect that appreciation back.
mm.
Does that like that was so cool to me because sometimes I'll do something for someone and I'm like, I don't feel like they appreciated
Right,
that.
right,
And I'm like, why did my mother never she never needed appreciation because she was so filled with it, right? And
right.
so the message I got back on my writing was, Sandy, be more grateful every
Yeah,
day.
that's the
Practice
foundation for
gratitude more.
everything. That is
Sometimes
that is
I
the
forget to be
foundation.
grateful, Rick.
That's
Sometimes
all.
I
That
forget.
we get so much to be grateful for,
Oh my
and,
goodness.
and to be grateful for the hard times too, which is hard to say, but that's what forms us. So you got to be grateful for every little thing.
All right, can
Sometimes
I
you got to
can
be
I
able.
be I want to be fully transparent.
Oh, go ahead.
When I'm going through shit, honest to God, if I'm in a moment of darkness, I can't be grateful. In that moment, it's hard.
Oh, of
And
course it is.
it's only when I have a little bit of space and time and perspective that I go, oh, I am so grateful that I just went through that. So,
Right.
because if someone said to me, and actually a couple people said, I remember when I was crying one day, um, someone said, Sandy, but be grateful that you had her for as long as you did. I'm like, okay, in this moment, I can't reach for gratitude. Gratitude is a high frequency of energy. Like if I'm in sadness and grief, in that moment, I can't be, you can't be grateful and grieving at the same time. It's impossible. You can shift from grief to gratitude and you can shift from gratitude to grief. So for me, I don't, like, I, I wouldn't want to, I want to let people know it's okay to not feel okay.
Right.
And then with time and perspective, that's where I'm like, oh, that's where the gratitude comes in because then I can start to see, oh, okay. So I had to go through that. Like I
Mm.
had to be broken open so that this could come forth and to feel stronger again, like a muscle that breaks, right? When you're working out, you're sore, but then the muscle gets stronger. It's like that's what I feel like can happens for me, and I feel like it's possible for anybody, right? We can become stronger and
Mm.
grow through any of these challenging moments. But in the moment, if you could see me in my some of my moments, I look the furthest thing from grateful.
Oh,
You
I hear
know?
you. You need,
Yeah.
'cause- and along with that comes patience. You need the patience.
Yeah.
I find myself, I still suffer from anxiety now and then. I'm allergic to dairy. We can talk about this later, but now dairy affects me terribly. I'll be anxious for a day or two if I got to really stay away from it. And when I'm in that, all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, I'm gone again. And you're right. I have
Yeah.
no gratitude at all. I feel like
Right.
where was yesterday's, but now I
I
know the
know.
shorter periods for me. So I think, okay, be patient. It's going to pass, you know. But what I'm trying to work on is why does dairy affect me? It's not just dairy.
Yeah.
There's a reason why dairy does. So I totally know that I'm going to get to the point where I can eat dairy all I want, but I got to get the underlying issue why that does that to me. But
Mm.
I know exactly what you mean by all of a sudden thinking
Yeah.
the day before I was grateful for every little thing. Right now I
Right.
can't find an iota of it, and that was just yesterday. I go, what the
So
heck?
I had a client who recently said to me, Sandy, I want to learn how to rid myself of anxiety. And I said, it's impossible. What I would rather do is teach you what to do when you feel anxious. Right? Right? Like, is it possible? Like I have moments of anxiety and I've been on this path for 26 years. I've been on a spiritual path. I have moments that I worry. I have moments that I'm afraid. So I think to set an expectation of, I'm never going to feel anxiety ever again. I'm never going to feel fear again.
Nice to
I'm never
shoot
going to
for.
feel, it's nice to shoot for. Is it
Yeah,
realistic?
right.
I don't know. But then what I found is if I use that as something to shoot for, when I miss it, I go, oh, I suck.
Right.
Right?
Well,
Rather than recognizing, oh, here's where I'm at. I'm feeling anxious. What are the tools that I have? Oh, I can pray. I can write in my journal. Let me meditate and rise above and reconnect to a place that has no anxiety. But to beat myself up for feeling that doesn't do any of us any good, right?
no, no. I do believe, though, there's certain enlightened beings on this earth that don't have it. There's not a lot of
I
them, but I do,
Yeah,
and I feel like I've come
I would
across
think
them.
so.
I genuinely believe they've got to the point of that higher dimension where they really don't worry and
Mm,
feel anxiety. I
I
do, and so
agree. I
I
am
know
not
it's
one of those
achievable.
people.
I might, maybe in my next life or the next, but I'm not going to give up. No, like I said, I'm not going to beat myself up. Well, boy, would I like to get there. So I think we're all evolving to that,
Yeah.
but it's, we got a ways to go.
We're human. We're human. We get affected by things. What I love working and mentoring my clients with is, as you're on this path, right, and as you're using some of the tools, the spiritual tools, what you'll find is you're down for the count for less time, right? You tend to
Mm,
get back up more quickly. Last year, Rick, I wouldn't say all of last year was a wash. It wasn't. There were many, many moments, but last year
right.
was probably one of the toughest years I think
Mm,
I've ever experienced.
yeah. Okay.
But I
It's
think there's
funny.
a lot of beauty that's coming from it too. That
You talked about the darkness earlier, and you know that I went through that depression a long time. I was years.
mhm,
I don't know, 8 years. I really didn't have many good moments.
yeah.
It was long. It was grueling. And at one point, my sister said to me, at the time, I didn't like what she said. She said, "Rick, you have to go back into the tunnel. You keep going in, and
Ooh,
you turn around, and you go back.
wow.
You gotta go." And I thought it was, I don't want. I got enough darkness right now. You want me to go dim to more darkness? No way.
Wow.
I got enough. She said, "No, you keep turning around and go backwards." My sister's a very insightful, wise woman, and
Wow.
she taught me a lot over the years. And that was one thing I never forgot her saying. Then when there was that, sometimes you can't turn around and run. What she's saying too. Deal with it, grieve it, feel it, move, and keep moving. Keep moving. Don't retreat. And I've never, and so I thought what was almost the silliest thing I've ever heard has been a very wise thing. You got to go dark
Wow.
into the tunnel, Rick. And I did. I went and I got through the tunnel, and I have times up there, but I know I'll never go through that long period again ever.
Yeah.
Because I got to the other side and I saw how, for the first time in my life, I really realized how precious life is, and I know the sanctity of it. And it's very fleeting, and it's just a little ride, and we get to experience everything of it. Suck it all up, and just be
Yeah.
great and be grateful for it all. You know. But,
One of the reasons why I can support people when they're going through deep, deep grief is because I've been through it.
mm.
I've been to the dark places.
Otherwise, you couldn't do it.
This
You couldn't have done it. You
can't do
wouldn't.
it. And it's like I can say to someone, I've been where you're at, not exactly where you've been at, but
No,
I'm on the other
pain.
side of it. I'm on the other
Right.
side of it. Let me take your hand. Let me walk you through it. I think this is why we need each other
Right.
to because there are people who have been through stuff that I've been through that I'm like, how did you get through it? Like, that's all we want to know. Like, how did you get through it? How do you do that? How do you get through it? How do you feel better?
That was their journey. Your journey is different. Every journey is
Yeah.
totally different. We can't compare ourselves, right? How we do it or whatever, how we navigate it. I want to get into it a little bit. If you know some of these questions, I do have too. I
Sure.
love what we're talking about. But for people who don't know you, I want to talk a little bit about the mediumship,
Hmm.
and I think they'd be curious to know how it started for you. What age were you like poo-pooing it down? Did you tell family? Did you get support, not support? Your marriage, like a spouse? I would think that'd be interesting to know. You
Yeah.
know, can you talk about those things? How it
Yeah.
developed? How it developed, if you don't
Absolutely.
mind? Yeah.
So I started working with the angelic realm. I had taken a course. I don't remember who it was. Barbara something in Connecticut. Uh, no, Trudy. Trudy. I think her sister's name was Barbara. Anyway, I took a class on connecting with your angels. and learned how to have conversations with the angelic realm through your writing. So that's where I started. And then I was I did some meditations. I was connecting with my spirit guide, and I was getting, information. And it was never fortune. They don't tell you the future. They don't tell you what you're going to experience. But it was more beautiful guidance that I was getting. And I did that for about 5 years. And then my second daughter, Talia, was born with a 1 in a million metabolic. Well, they think it was a metabolic thing, where she stayed at Beth Israel Hospital her entire life, on a ventilator, on and off a ventilator. And she ended up dying at 31 days old. And that was the breaking open part for me, that when she was in the hospital, there were moments of just feeling so overwhelmed. Like, why is this happening to me? Did I do something wrong? Was I not a good enough mother to Ariana, my firstborn? And so a few times I would go to my writing, when I would be in those places, and I was getting messages when she was still alive. And the message were things like, Sandy, death is not the end. You're going through this for a reason. You're going to help a lot of people through this. And I remember thinking at the time, I don't even know how I'm going to help myself through this. I don't know, let alone help other people. But the messages were pretty clear, like, death is not the end. Death is not the end. You're going through this for a reason. So after she passed, 2.5 weeks later, and it's so interesting, as I'm sharing this with you, probably my most profound moments have happened after the most intense pain. It was 2.5 weeks later, I was at my worst. I didn't even want to be on this planet anymore. I was just in so much pain. And I ended up, last resort, turning to a yellow pad of paper and a pen. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm empty. I've got nothing. I have nothing. I have no inspiration. I don't even know what I want to write about. And then I heard inside of my head, mommy, mommy, mommy. I'm like, okay, I'm going crazy. I'm going crazy. So I took my pen and I wrote it, mommy, comma, and then my pen just went. And it was a message from Talia's spirit. And it, here's what I have come to realize, Rick. When I connect with spirit, whether it's for myself or for another person, or I'm in the writing with spirit, I'm tuning into a vibration that holds no pain. So when I received that message from Talia, I was filled with a peace beyond any understanding. It was crazy. I was like, oh my God, she's okay. Oh my God, this is here. Oh my God, I'm supposed to do something with this. And then it was, I would say within the next month and a half, I started sitting in spirit circle, because I became really curious. Like, okay, is this real? If what happens after death? Is there really this thing called spirit? And if so, how do you continue to, how do you tap in all the time?
So she's the first person that really communicated with you ever? Like, as a child, you didn't feel like you were getting messages or anything from anybody?
No. Like I said, 5 years before Talia
Yeah.
was born, I was getting messages from my angels. But yeah, so I started sitting in spirit circle, and I was able to, see things, hear things, get messages. And then I did some intensive training in England at the Arthur Finley School. And but I didn't trust it, Rick. I didn't, because I didn't know how it worked. I knew that it did work. I didn't know how I didn't know the mechanism. I was trying to figure that part out. So I came back, and I didn't want to tell anybody that my family knew, but I didn't want to tell the world what I was doing, because back then, this is 26 years ago, nobody was talking about this. It wasn't mainstream. So
1995, 94. Okay.
yeah, it was 1994. Yep. And so I kept it quiet, but people started finding out, and clients started coming, and I, honest to God, I would be like, oh my God, I can't believe it worked. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then it's been an incredible blessing for the last 2.5 decades.
Well, you're very good at it too. I mean,
Thank
the
you.
first session I had with you, you are
You.
definitely at your peak, like what you came to do. You are so
Thank
in it.
you.
You are relaxed, and you make the person feel comfortable.
Thank
So,
you.
I mean, you are definitely at your optimum when you're doing that. So, you found what you came here to do. And that what I like too about you is you're very open with your newsletter, where you tell people what you're going through. You're not
I
hiding
have to,
anything,
I have to
so
keep it,
there's
I
no,
have to keep it real, Rick.
yeah,
And I think that's why people can relate to me, because I don't want to put myself on a pedestal, like letting people think I have it all figured out. Like
right,
just because someone is a medium, which I think we all are, I think we are all connected,
right.
but just because you practice mediumship doesn't mean your life is automatically, you got it all figured out. You still work through your own stuff,
I want to thank you too, and I probably never thanked you formally, but
Wow, you're gonna make me cry.
you that session with you, you're responsible for a major shift in my life. I had already started coming out of my depression. I met Tammy, but you referred me to Anita Morjani, Dying to Be Me, that book.
Mm.
And that book was huge for me. I read it a few times, and then I started following her. But then through her is when I got connected with Wayne Dyer. I went backwards,
Mm.
and it started me thinking. I had a certain religious background,
Yeah.
and it was ecumenical. I was Catholic, then I was Methodist, I was Congregational, I was Presbyterian, but I was I was very ingrained with the religious dogma all those years, and it started making me think differently. Reading that book and Wayne Dyer. So everybody's a domino to another thing. So you
Yeah.
started dominoes falling that I've been very grateful for, of
Oh, good.
expanding my intuition, or just
Awareness.
my truth.
Yeah.
Um, I'm really. That's why when I kidded you about those number of days ago, it wasn't just
Mm.
it wasn't just a throwaway day, May 27, 2015. So.
I'm glad.
So that's, to know that you can impact people, and we all can impact people, things you never even know sometimes how much. But and I still right now, Anita Morjani has a private group called Sanctuary, and you pay a certain amount every month, and I'm in that group. It's a smaller group that she can, it's wonderful. And
Nice.
so, and then that leads to another. I spent a weekend with her at Omega Institute too, her and John Holland at a weekend. But I just want to say thank you. So I'm using this is my gratitude to you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
So,
So I'm feeling nudged to talk about religion from spirit's perspective,
sure, I'll go ahead,
because
please.
a lot of the clients that I have worked with through the years have kind of also gotten caught in the dogma and the shame and the guilt
Right.
that goes along with some religions. And Spirit has said that religion is something that we do here. It's a consciousness. It's a group consciousness, right, of like-minded and like-hearted individuals, and it's not right or wrong. It just is, right? So
Tries
you have
to make us feel safe, almost, right? To make us feel secure or something.
it's for all different kinds of reasons. And what
Yeah.
Spirit showed me one time was, they said, here is the energetics of Catholicism. Here are the energetics of Buddhism. Here are the energetics of Judaism, like all these different religions, right? And then they had me draw a big circle around all of the smaller circles, right? And they said, this is the energy of God. God is bigger than any religion.
Yeah.
And some religions have different pieces of the energy of God, right? To me, the energy
Right.
of God is the energy of love, period. So I personally don't believe in fear-based teachings. That's never, it doesn't resonate with me.
Right.
Or fear-based God, or
Well, fear is the opposite of love. So
yeah,
love is God. So
sometimes I'll work with a client going through grief, and we work through their God issues, because they're like, well, why couldn't God save my child? I'm angry at God. Angry. Like I can't tell you how many times through the years I've heard people say, I'm so angry at God. And I'm like, oh, just own your anger. You're projecting it at God, which to me, the energy of God is the energy of healing. So you're blocking your own healing when you're projecting your anger at the very energy that is healing itself.
yeah, Because you get into the Bible and all that, you know, and I just the other day I was thinking about the Ten Commandments and how right now in life, what's going on with politics and everything, everyone is fighting so hard for what's right, their side, this is right, this is right. And we want to start, and then we get lost, and then it's the opposite of love, because we're fighting so hard for our side. There is really no side. So I'm always confused by why the Bible took hold like the Ten Commandments. I mean, why do people have these commandments to this? That's fear involved, and if you don't do that, you don't follow that. So I'm always very confused about that. There's beautiful messages. I love the New Testament. I love the teachings of Jesus Christ. But so much of the Old Testament of the Bible just was it because it was made for that time, and that was for that time. But so many times it can just confound things. The Ten Commandments, it's just rules.
So,
go ahead.
So, Jesus is energy, right? So Jesus will sometimes come into my sessions. His energy will show up. Sometimes the Blessed Mother's energy will show up. I don't remember how long ago this was, but I was working with Spirit, and what was given to me was the way Jesus healed. Like in how it says, these things that I can do, you can do as well. Like we are made of the same energetics that Jesus was. What I was shown was Jesus's energy was at such a high frequency. And he was in a frequency where illness didn't exist, right? Illness does not exist in the spirit realm. It does not exist. It doesn't exist. It's energy. It does not exist. So Jesus's energy, because he spent so much time communing with God, talking to God, feeling himself with God's energy, he was vibrating at such a high frequency so that when someone who was sick would come around him, he would touch them or they would touch him. Because he held his frequency so high and so strong and did not waver, when he touched someone or they touched him, this person who was sick would start vibrating at a higher frequency where illness didn't exist, and then they called it a miracle. To me, it was more a shift. It was more a shift in frequency.
Yeah.
And so imagine what we could all do if we could practice bringing ourselves into a higher frequency, which to me is the awareness of our own spirit, the awareness of our own soul.
I've heard talk too that they say that Jesus is quite possible was here many, many lifetimes to reach that level of vibration.
That would make sense to me.
That would make sense to me too.
That would make sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so even Rick, like whether it's anxiety or depression, when I bring someone who is anxious or depressed, when I bring them into a different energetic space, right? Into the energy of whether it's God's energy or the energy of their own spirit or their soul, they have actually risen above the energy of anxiety or depression or worry. Now, some people who are watching might be saying, Sandy, that's great. Why didn't you do it for yourself? Because when I am in that, like I was saying, sometimes we need other people, and sometimes we just stay there because we're meant to stay there for however long. But anyway, it is possible to rise above any energetic frequency. And when you're there, it gives the cells of your body a chance to, I'm hearing it as it gives the cells of the body a chance to remember the energy of love. Like our cells are always listening to our thoughts, to our words, and responding, right? Oh, did I lose you, Rick? Yeah, okay.
All right, sorry, folks. We had a little bit of an interruption, just technicalities. We're not technical wizards here,
We were on
So
such a high frequency, it blew
it blew everything up. The
open.
lights flickered. My goodness. I get elevated. I don't know if you know, I was levitated off the ceiling actually, but I think I'm back down again. So
I don't know where it cut off.
Yeah, you saw me, but I didn't see you anymore. So I see you again. All right.
So what were we saying?
What were you saying? Oh boy.
I was talking about rising above, like rising above different frequencies. And I remember one time in my writing, the message from God said to me, you know, you can spend an entire lifetime trying to heal certain issues, or you can rise above them.
Hmm. Do you? I just started following somebody yesterday. One of my gurus right now, Cody, is actually my chiropractor. I love her, and I go to. I get to because of my neck and everything else, but I really don't go too often for that. That's the excuse. But we just go and we talk, and she does different things, and she clears my energy and all these things that are very holistic.
Mm-hmm.
And she referred me to a person yesterday, Peter Crone, Crone. Have you ever heard of him?
Mm-mm.
He's awesome. He is awesome. I highly recommend him to
What is he? Who is he?
He lives out in California. He's British. He's about 50, I would say.
Uh-huh.
He's written a book. He's a coach for a lot of athletes and professional golfers and that type of thing. He used to be a fitness guy, but his
Uh-huh.
story is remarkable, and he's remarkable. He's brilliant. He's brilliant, and I think they call him the mind architect, and somebody referred to him as a combination of Buddha, Einstein, and Austin Powers.
Wow. That's an
Yeah, because he's
interesting
got
combo.
science, he's spirituality, he's rational, he's hands-on, and he's cool, baby. You know, he's like, yeah. But it's really, I'm so glad she referred me to it. She goes, I knew you'd love him. I texted her this morning and told her this guy. So now I got I got living gurus, dead gurus, you know, way down. You need a Mojadi. Now this guy is big. I mean, he goes, you know, and then you can only listen so much. It's nice to bounce around a little bit, but only
Yeah.
so many people you can follow once. And this guy resonates with me big time.
Okay, you ready? You
What?
ready? Here's
Yeah.
what just dropped in when you said it.
What?
Wow.
What?
What if you knew that the only person or the only one that you had to follow was already within you?
Right? You're your own guru, right?
Well, and it's not, when I say that, I don't mean like the Rick Quinn ego personality. I don't mean that,
Right.
right? And
No,
I
I
don't
hear you.
mean, again, same thing here, but I believe within each of us is our own inner guru. It's our
Right.
own inner brave heart. It's our own inner wise self. If we could, like, I spent a lot of my life looking outward, right?
Right.
For
Right.
what should I do? What do you think I should do? What do you, like, always looking
Right.
for
Right.
approval, looking for confirmation and validation. And then it was like,
Right.
wait a minute. And I think I blame it on being the youngest of five girls because they all knew better. They all were more advanced than me, right? But it's like now it's really, I think it's much more important to tune in and to go, wait a minute, does this feel right and true for me?
Yeah.
And live from that place. Like I was working with a client the other day. I don't remember what we were talking about, but I said to her, I want you to put your hand on your heart and or one on your stomach and ask the, because she said, what do you think I should do, Sandy? And I said, I'm not going to tell you what you should do because I don't believe there's a should or a shouldn't. But I said, I want you to put your hand on your heart and your stomach and just ask that question deep down inside, because deep down inside, we all know. We
Mm.
all know. And so
Mm.
she did it and she's like, oh, wow, you're right. I said, the problem is we're not tuning into that deep down place. We're living up here. This is where all the chaos is,
Yeah.
right? So you could follow five gurus or you don't need any of them because you
Yeah.
have it. I guarantee you have it. We all
Well,
do. We were
but I mean,
born with it.
it's nice though to be led by these certain people. You know what I'm saying?
Of
For
course.
what? For a certain time. But I hear exactly what you're saying. But to
It's like when
be
yeah,
reinforced what you
yeah,
know is already true. You're hearing it going,
yeah,
yeah, I know that. I know that. But
yeah.
but your mind keeps forgetting it, and your mind keeps living caught in this world. So it's good just to be reminded and hearing another person say it. It is a reflection. It's a mirror back at
It
you
is.
of everything you already know, but you
Everything is a
can't
mirror.
articulate it as well.
Everything is a mirror. Rick, when you were talking about, there's a lot of fighting in the world, right?
Right.
I wonder, because I do in my heart of all hearts know that everything that we're seeing in the world or in our smaller world it's mirroring something back for us to look at.
Right. Right.
What if the fighting that we're seeing in any parts of the world is really reflecting on a global scale the fighting that's happening inside of ourselves,
Absolutely.
right? Like, my question would be to anyone, are you at peace with who you are?
Well, I think
Are
that's
you,
what's happening.
can you
All the
accept you the way
all
you
this
are?
all this anger and the fighting. I mean, and I realize it totally now is okay. So that he made me angry. Oh, he made nobody made you. You made yourself. That he stirred up with the anger that existed in you. So you can't point the finger at him or her or whatever. Look inside and say, what's making me angry? That's all you can control, and that's what you can do. They keep working on it all the time, your own anger. And then you can't point to that finger and be the victim of it.
Right.
My world's dependent. They got power over me. He can make me angry. No, you let yourself get angry because it's up to you.
And I don't
He's just
think
helping
there's,
you get. He's helping you
I
solve
don't,
it, or
I
she.
don't think there's anything wrong with anger. I think
Mm,
it gets problematic when we throw it up on someone.
yeah.
Like, right? Anger is an energy that is showing us that there's some loss that we're still processing, or some sadness that's underneath it.
Mm.
And if we're not feeling the sadness, sometimes we'll sit in the anger,
And stuffing
like
it down
I
just
know
makes it explosive.
for me, when I'm angry, it's typically, what's really happening is, no, I'm actually hurt. I'm feeling hurt.
Mm,
And if I'm
right.
not dealing with the hurt that I'm feeling, I it will look like anger,
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's about our willingness to be with whatever is coming up for us, whether it's hurt or anger or fear. Like, be with it. And I like, bring it to God. Ask God about it.
Mm,
Ask God about it. Because from God's perspective, that energy's perspective is so different than our mental perspective. Because
mm,
if you ask yourself, should I be worried about this? Your mind will give you 101 reasons why you should be worried. Oh, remember this happened when you were 12. Remember this happened when you were 17. And yes, you should be very worried and you should protect yourself. And go on and on and on and on and on. And meanwhile, if you go to God with it and you ask God, should I be worried about this? Not once, ever, ever, ever has God's energy ever, or spirit's energy ever, ever, ever said, oh, you should be very worried and very afraid of that. Not once. How is that? It depends on who you ask,
mm.
right?
And it's we carry these things. So this anger, whatever, like this video that I saw yesterday with Peter Cronin, he was being interviewed by Kerwin Ray, and it was magnificent because they really healing took place during the interview. Kerwin
Mm,
Ray is a magnificent guy. He was interviewing him, and he's had all kinds of issues. And he got talking about a personal thing that when he was 6 months old, his parents separated and divorced. And he talked, and he said, I waited a long time to get into marriage and get in a relationship because I wanted it to be perfect. I didn't want to make a mistake.
mm,
So, and then Peter brought him to the place of saying, boy, you've been, I hope I can word it right. You've been carrying that energy all these years
yeah.
of getting it right, not doing what they did. He goes, was that wrong that they separated us? And he said, no, it wasn't. So look at all that, because he said he was breaking out with a skin irritation around his eyes. He said it was fire. All this stuff he has stuffed
Mm,
down all those years waiting for it. And he goes, imagine what pressure that lead you to. All of a sudden now you did get married. 40 years you were carrying along that energy of you were afraid of making a mistake. And so the thing is, you come to these points of recognizing these issues we all have, different ones, of how to release it. And he actually, he grabbed his heart at one point when he was talking to him, and you could see he released it in front of on his
mm,
podcast. He released something he'd been carrying 40 years of trying to get the perfect relationship, because he was talking about, I'm going every year. I have a theme. One year it was a body theme. Another year it was whatever, a spiritual thing. Another year it was This year was relationship theme. And he just came to the point where how he showed that you can release it. You can release something of an
yes.
energy that you're stuck like that. Oh,
Where'd you
oh,
go? There you are.
oh, I don't know. Oh, I'm back. Am I back again? Oh, good. I didn't
You're
lose you
back
completely
again.
that time. We had a blackout. Oh, oh my goodness, it
Yeah,
keeps happening. Oh, you know
I do
why?
think it's,
I don't know. It did again. Let's hope it stays. It says something about storage, but I'm not oh, I am recording too, maybe. I'm going to stop recording because you're recording, right?
Yeah.
If I stop recording, though, will I stop seeing you? Let's see.
No.
Okay, well, it's so far so good. I'm not going to do anything. So anyway, that was enough. I didn't want to
Okay.
interrupt you there, but I just...
I do think it's possible to release things that we've been holding on to for a long, long time. And for me, it comes with a higher perspective understanding. When I can understand something, then I can release it.
And how do you help when you coach people, how do you help them release it?
Yeah. Sometimes I'll bring in the perspective of spirit, and they go, like, people have said to me, Sandy, you connect the dots for me. You connect the dots of understanding, because what happens is when something happens in our life, especially when we're younger, we tend to make up a story, right? We make up a story about it, and usually it's a scary story, and that's the story that we create our lives with. That's the pattern that we keep seeing. That's a pattern that we keep repeating. So a lot of times I'll bring them back to the inner child, and we give the inner child whatever it needs, and we help the inner child see it differently. And there's a show.
Because what Peter said to this man yesterday, he said, a lot of times we try to heal the child. We try to heal it. He goes, we don't heal it. We hold it. We just hold it in love. Yeah,
it's what our inner children need, is just love, because they a lot of times they they just want love. Any of us, that's all we're looking for, love and validation.
That's it. What else?
You got?
I got a lot of things. I'm trying to think what else. What would you like to talk about? You tell me. Anything
Well,
in particular that resonates with you right now? What jumps right out at you right now?
I want to talk about the power of creativity as it relates to healing.
I like it.
So creativity can be, like, we are creative beings. That's what we do. We create shit all the time. We're creating our lives. We're creating it. We're co-creating it. So for me, coming back into my painting practice, when I show up at the canvas, it's like the canvas is like life, right? So you show up as you have a blank canvas every single day. And I show up at the canvas. Sometimes I know what I want to paint. Sometimes I don't have a clue. And the process that I go through is, it's like intuitively choosing the colors that make me feel good, right? And that's what we're doing in our life. We're choosing the people that we're with. We're choosing the work that we do. We're choosing the foods that we eat. And sometimes I don't like the choices of color that I make, and sometimes the painting gets muddy, and then I get to paint over it. And that's what we like. Everything that I see on my canvas shows up in my life. You know what I mean? And what I also like, if let me back up. I know it's sounding confusing. If I'm working through, if I'm feeling less abundant, I can go to my canvas and feel abundance, because I can see how many colors I can create with. Even if I start with red, blue, and yellow, I can create an infinite number of colors, and that's sending this signal to me, like, wow, this is abundance. And the simple act of being in abundance at my canvas then shows up in my life. It's wild. It's so wild. The other thing that I am loving about it, and this is what I'm going to start leading people through as well, is that when I show up at the canvas, the monkey mind kind of goes off and plays somewhere else.
Because you're present, right? You're present.
I'm
totally
present. Yeah, I'm
you're
present.
Making yourself, you're meditating, and you're doing a form of meditation.
Painting for me is a meditative practice, but I also started working with manifestation paintings, where I'm writing things on the canvas, and then intuitively doing the colors, and then seeing what else wants to come out. And it's just a fun process. I have found it's built confidence for me. It's helped my intuition. It has helped clear my mind. Yeah, it's given me a sense of freedom.
Is that painting behind you something you painted on the wall?
That one, no. This one I did many years. This one, oops, right there.
Okay. That's the ocean, is it? Ocean and the sand?
Yeah, that one I did many years ago. Yeah.
Okay.
But
Okay.
we built an art studio for me downstairs,
Oh,
which has
nice.
been, it's like when I step into the studio, it's like, it's bright because it's like all my paintings are there. It's like bright, it's cheerful, and I know that something really cool is going to be created from nothing.
Did you always paint, or is that something just evolved over time?
This is another thing. Like this is like, and like I never had any formal art training. I had a crush on my 8th grade art teacher, so I always got passes to go to his art room. No, it was again, Rick, it was one of these things that it came, it was birthed from a tough place. Like I'd just gone through a breakup, and I had all of these thoughts like, what's he doing? Is he with another woman? And this is going back, I don't know how many years, probably 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Um, and I knew I needed a hobby because I thought my mind was just on overdrive. It was just obsessively thinking about this person. And
Yeah.
so I said to Ariane, I said, I think I'm going to go to A. Seymour, which was a craft place. I think they're out of business now. I think I want to start painting. She's like, Mom, you can't paint. I said, I know, but I want to start. So she came with me. We happened to be I didn't know the difference between oils or acrylics, didn't know anything. I just happened to be in the acrylic aisle, got a bunch of paints, paintbrushes, canvas. She's like, Mom, what are you doing? You're spending all this money on paints and you can't paint. 4 months, 4 months, I painted 40 paintings, had an art show, sold them. It was crazy. It was like
Wow.
this. I couldn't stop it. It was like it was coming through me. It was like I was painting so fast and furiously. And I'm also not a late night person. I
Yeah.
was at that back then. I was staying up sometimes 1, 2 in the morning painting. It was like it's like this energy that takes you over. It was so
Yeah.
fun. So it came back again a few years ago, and now it's back again in my life. And it's like it's it's like it's I don't know. It lifts my vibration.
It certainly supports reincarnations, things like when that happened, when all of a sudden, like, it quite likely was a skill you had before. You didn't need to be taught, maybe,
I guess.
and all of a sudden,
I don't
something released for you that something you didn't think you had came through. Possibly, I don't know.
and it's interesting, right? So sometimes when I'm at the canvas, I can hear some stories that are going through my head, like, oh, this looks like shit. Oh, this isn't going to look like what I want it to look like just like life,
Your
right?
ego's talking to
It's
you.
like,
Yeah.
oh yeah. So it's like, oh, I don't care. You can just repaint over it. You can. So I just did a wolf painting. I haven't put it on Facebook yet, but I did a wolf painting. I love it. But I had to give this poor little wolf a nose job 3 times because its nose was way too big and its ears were way too long. So I came upstairs. I said, Kenny, I just performed rhinoplasty and an ear surgery
Yeah.
on my little wolf. And now I love him. Her. It's a her. I call it a her. She's cute.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Mm.
So this past year really is not. There's never been a lost year or anything like that. That was a very important year for you. You know,
Yeah. So
important year
on New Year's
for us
Eve,
all.
Kenny and I, it was just the 2 of us, and I said to him, let's do some writing together. I said, let's make a list of all the things we had to say goodbye to and let go of this past year, because it was a lot, right? So
Yeah.
we made a list
Yeah.
of everything we had, everything that came to an ending, anything we had to say goodbye to, anything that we had to let go of that we didn't want to. And it was a good sized list. So after we did that, I said, now let's make a list of all the things that we got to welcome in this past
Mm.
year, all the new beginnings that came from the endings. And it was an even longer list. Like even the one that stood out for me was I had to say goodbye to my mother's body. And that was hard.
Right. Right.
But then I got to say hello to this communication with her spirit, which is still so beautiful and so
Mm.
present and loving. A
Mm.
lot of creativity was born this year. Um,
Can your kids
yeah.
connect with spirit too? Do they have that ability? We all have the ability, but are they able to access it?
My younger one, I think, does more so. They're both intuitive.
Yeah.
Um, they're both intuitive, and they're both growing spiritually
Mm.
at a much younger age than I ever did.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I think a lot of younger people are.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's beautiful because I see both of them. Um,
That's what I think. The world
yeah.
right now, it seems like it's chaos and awful, but I see an underlying thing that's beautiful. There's something beautiful happening here that amongst all this chaos we
Mm,
think is chaos. You talk about breaking open on an individual basis. We're breaking open on a humanity consciousness basis. So
I
this
agree, and
has to happen.
I think it's important for us to become aware of where we're putting our focus. Like, what are
Mm.
you focusing on? What are you focusing on? Are you focusing on the problem, or are you open for a solution to come through? You know, and I think sometimes what I see happening, I don't watch the news a lot because I see people contributing to the problem, adding to the problem, adding to the problem, talking about the problem. Where I go, can we pivot? Like, pivot. Okay, yes, that exists. Now, how can you be open for the solution to come through you?
Right.
I
Well,
believe it starts with working on your own stuff first.
well,
You
that's
know,
right. Every
what
time I
are you,
start
what
tuning
are,
into the news too much, I get my energy gets down, and then I know it's well, that doesn't sound
yeah,
good, and I gotta want to be
yeah.
informed a little bit, but I get my energy down. That's all I have to offer is my energy. So I gotta
So
turn it off. I gotta turn it off and just tune
I,
in to love.
I'm feeling nudged to talk about your dairy issue. I don't know why.
Okay, no, I'd be happy to.
So what happens to you when you have dairy?
I get very anxious. I get all those things that happened to me during my long depression. I get fuzzy headed. My blood pressure actually goes up because it'll be like 180 over 120 for a day or two or hours, depending how much I ate. Um, I get nauseous. I get a cough. I get a runny nose. I get a like allergic reaction. But I know dairy has always been a little bit of an issue for me, but just in the last couple of years, I realized that it's a tremendous issue. So I know it's something it's giving me a message to heal a lot of things
Can
that
you
I'm
ask,
working on.
your mom's still alive, right? Can you can
Yes.
you ask your mom, and she may or may not know this, I wouldn't know this if somebody asked me, at what age you were introduced to milk when you were little?
Yeah, in Alaska. Yeah, I would guess I think I did was breastfed for a while, but I think it was maybe a year. I don't know. I'd have to ask her.
Because I'm sensing
I,
that something like that, like the system wasn't ready for it or something like that.
well, I've been told it's a maternal issue, and the dairy is maternal, and it's all maternal. And my mother is past. I mean, she's getting near the end. She's 94, and we
Mm,
don't know how much longer she has. So I know there's a lot of involvement there. And like with you know, there's challenges to every relationship, and she has been a very important person in my life because we've challenged each other, you know,
mm.
in ways that I thought were somewhat bad that weren't bad. They were good.
How did she help you to grow?
She showed me a lot of things I want to be and not be. She's
Mm,
modeled behavior that I've liked and not liked, and she showed me a lot of good characteristics. She's very curious about life. She's very intelligent. Yeah, she has a curiosity, and she has an interest in a lot of things. She's well educated. She's thoughtful,
mm.
um, but she's also like everybody. She showed me things that I didn't want to mirror. But I was always able to speak to her like it was a kid. We may have had our go-arounds, but she was the one person I could talk to. But I could go into. I liked having deep discussions with her. I could go in depth. My father I loved and adored, but I would never go into depth. He wasn't capable of it. She was
So
capable to
as
go into areas that I needed to go to.
so as you're talking about your mom, your dad's energy is coming in. Um, and it's a different energy than what you knew here. I don't mean it's a different father, but it's a
But
different,
he was super sweet man.
yeah, it's a different, but it's a fullness. There's a fullness that I'm feeling with your father
Mm.
that I that like, or an openness, I guess, that he's coming in with. Would it make sense that he had to protect himself against your mom?
I'm sorry, if he what?
If he had to protect himself against your mom.
In this life?
Emotionally?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Because he's free of that. So what I'm sensing is there's that there's some protecting that you also had to do. Yeah. You've had lifetimes with your mom too, by the way.
Yeah, I've been told that before.
Yeah.
I've been told they've been reverse roles.
And different roles of power. Like
Right. Exactly.
the power roles were shifted. And so I don't believe any lifetime is ever as a punishment, because I believe we choose our parents every single time.
Right.
We choose our experiences.
Right.
But you've played on this playground with your mom.
Right.
And so we get to see what it's like being on the other side of us.
Right. I did this life, apparently. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
And so I'm hearing this life is it's balancing the energy for the two of you.
And to forgive each other.
The word that was coming in was forgiveness.
And forgive ourselves.
Yeah. And recognizing, like, we're doing this dance. This is the dance we're doing this time around. And I want to just stay on the word forgiveness, because sometimes people throw that word around like, oh, just forgive them. And again, it's just like we were talking about gratitude and grief. Like, it's hard to be grateful when you're grieving, right? Because you're grieving, or you're in anxiety, whatever it is. It's hard to feel forgiveness when you're in the hurt.
Right.
Or anger.
And a child.
And so it's hard. It's because they're two different energetic frequencies. So if this is why it's so important to be able to kind of come within, pull back, and witness it from the soul's perspective. Because from the soul's perspective, you'll actually see that there's nothing that needs to be forgiven.
Right.
Forgiveness is needed from our mental mind, but not necessarily from the soul, because the soul knows, oh, okay, I'm gonna go through this experience for these reasons. The mental mind will say, well, this happened to me. I need to forgive you. The soul doesn't see it as victimization. The soul sees it as, this is the growth experience I'm going to go through. Make sense? So for the mental mind, yeah, the word forgiveness comes in, because that's where we sometimes live. Like, this person hurt me, or I did this to this person. I need to forgive myself. I need to forgive them. When you back up and you go into the soul's perspective, the soul says, it's all perfect. It's all perfect. They didn't do this to you. They did this for you.
Well, life doesn't happen to you. It happens for you. I love that saying.
And
but
again, that's not always easy to reach for when you're in the pain of it, right? And so that comes with time and perspective.
With my, and as I became, in later years, I did realize that I think definitely the most important contract, if you want to, I believe in contracts, that I came in with was with my mother.
She's a powerful teacher for you.
Yeah, I was lucky to have her all these many years,
Wait till you see what she's going to be like after she passes, Rick. Oh my God.
No, I
sense it. Like, her energy is going to be like.
My grandmother comes through a lot too for me. I think she's been an important person. She died in 1971 when I was like 13, but I feel like she's had my mother's mother is also.
Is there an RO or a Rose that links in?
My mother-in-law was Rosalie. My ex-mother-in-law, but I don't know. Okay. I don't know a Rose on my side of the family.
No, Rosalie would be the same frequency as Rose. Is she also in spirit, Rosalie?
No, she's alive.
Oh, she's here? Okay. Her energy's coming in, so not sure why.
My ex-mother-in-law?
So it's interesting that her energy comes in after we're talking about forgiveness.
Oh, okay. Huh.
So there might be something there.
Okay.
I want to try and thread it all together. But do you have any other questions?
No, I just appreciate your time, and we can always do it again sometime to other things. So it's good touching base with you on a personal level and a professional
Thank
level, on a
you.
podcast level. And no, I think I've really enjoyed
Congratulations.
it.
Congratulations on your podcast. And on behalf of anyone who's watching, I just want to say thank you and kudos and appreciation for you being a vehicle to help people
Well, that's
in
part of my
different ways.
journey. I've been told many times is to find my voice.
Nice.
And apparently this has been part of it, you know. So
I remember, I think the first session that you and I did, I think your voice came into it, as far as like, Rick, you got to be doing something with your voice. You got to be doing something with your voice.
Well, I had it since I was 6. I used to kid people when I answer the phone, they'd say it was my father. Hello, Bob.
Oh. So he's a Robert. So he's an RO. Okay.
He's Robert. Yeah, he's Robert.
Okay.
You just heard Robert?
So interesting. Well, no, interesting, because Robert and Rose, the RO, will come in the same frequency. Oh, that's interesting. Huh.
I'll tell him hello.
Cool.
Tell him I love him. Tell him thank you.
Excuse me. You don't need me to tell him, you goofy thing. So this is what I want people to know, right? You don't need to, because people say that all the time. Spirit hears you. And for anyone that's watching or anyone that's listening, I want you to know that you're never alone. You know, your own beautiful soul is right here. God's energy is here. Your loved ones in spirit are right here, even if you can't see them.
Nice. All right. Thank you, Sandy. I'm going to wrap it up.
Rick.
Thank you. And we'll figure out the nuances of how to get the video and all this stuff and all the fun stuff.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you, Sandy. And thank you to the listeners, whoever is to hear this podcast at some point in time. Thank you for tuning in. And my hope is, if your dreams are lingering in your back pocket, you're perhaps a little bit closer to taking them out and being the wonderful you is. Yes, I is, you is. Drawing near to being totally we are. See you soon on the next episode of Back Pocket Dream. Bye.
Bye.